You, are you posing for the thumbnail that I'm going to use? Actually, the last time we recorded and I was editing and everything, and I was trying to pick out the image for the thumbnail, there were a ton from the last episode that I snipped that I was like, oh, if I use that image of Luke, he is absolutely going to. Yeah, he's gonna hate my guts. So, but there was one where you were laughing and your head was all the way back and you were like this,
falling over. Sweet.
Yeah, it was pretty funny actually.
Hey,
Yeah,
for dumb marketers, that's probably a legit one.
yeah, no, it's you. You just got to be you.
That's right. I don't care.
All right, we're back with episode 5.
Hi, everybody.
We're live. Well, we're not live, but we're live.
You and I are live.
Yeah, I'd love to find a platform where we can go live. That'd be cool.
No.
That way we could see 0 viewers the whole time.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Hey, look, it takes time to gain an audience on YouTube.
It does.
But let me tell you, I'll just tell you a really quick story. You know, we talked about this in the last episode, my baseball sim YouTube channel.
Yep.
Okay, it was stuck at like 26 viewers for like a couple of days. I wasn't getting anything, right? And then this last week, which we'll talk about in a minute, I wasn't posting any content on any of my YouTube channels. Nothing. No videos, no nothing. So with that means I wasn't logging into YouTube every day to like look at analytics. And then yesterday, I just took a quick peek at the channel just to see what was going on. And I had added 4 new subscribers this week alone without doing anything.
Without lifting a finger.
Yeah. And then I was finding that some of the videos that I published not too long ago, but not very recent, were getting views again. So they had like hopped back into the algorithm and everything. So YouTube is a weird game to play.
It's nice to see those numbers come in when you're not actually putting effort in.
Yeah. So I'm at 30 subscribers now with that YouTube channel.
Dude, you're rolling.
And it's technically not even a month old yet.
Right.
So
does that make you happy?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That was like, okay. Like, you know, because you start to get to a point where you're just like, I don't know if this channel is going to go anywhere. It's not really growing very much. And I knew it was early, so I'm not stressing about it. But then you log in and you're like, oh, wow, okay, this thing picked up 4 subscribers when I've been gone all week.
Right.
So the same thing will happen with dumb marketers. At some point, the clouds will part, the algorithm will pick us up, and we'll get more viewers.
I think Google creators, vast majority, 90+%, probably had this conversation with themselves about, I don't know if this channel is going to go anywhere. Mm-hmm. Just due to the slow incremental growth of how this all works.
There is some weird statistic, and I don't want to make it up, but I know I heard it recently that, like, you know, really high percentage, 90 something odd % of creators have less than 10 subscribers.
There you go.
I mean, so it's really like once you cross 10, you've crossed into basically a single digit percentage of the top that actually have more than 10.
That's crazy.
So, you know, you've got your Mr. Beasts of the world who have, you know, 100 million subscribers. And then you've got Sports Sim Guy that's got 30, right? But
and then you've got Jerry down the road who's got his 5 family members who love his YouTube channel.
Yep, and probably gets 4,000 watch hours a year because it's long. But it's like between Sports Sim Guy with 30 and Mr. Beast at 100 million, that's still only 10 percentage points.
Right.
You know, so it's like,
right.
You know, it's just it's a long game.
You're still a top performer.
Still a top performer, and I'm going to say that every single day. Make myself feel better. So the dumb marketers are at 6.
We're getting there.
Yeah, I mean,
if
you take me out, you out, my daughter out, my grandma out.
We've got our 4 family members.
We've got like 2.
Actually, you know what? My wife hasn't She hasn't favored it yet, so
Well, come on.
I know that's at least one more.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we'll get 10 soon. We will. We will. We'll get 10 soon. But you know what? You got to show up, and that's what we're doing. We're showing up every week.
Every week.
Every week,
So
with
what
the
are we going to
exception.
talk about today, there, Chief?
Yeah. Okay. So the year is moving fast.
Yep.
We're already 1/4 done with the year.
Yep.
And well, you've known me for a long time. I'm kind of this. I like, following this cadence of the year, the quarter, the month, the week. Like I enjoy that. So for me, I look at the first quarter coming to an end as a time to think about what I've done, what I've achieved, and then what's coming for the next quarter.
In case this video is around for a while, we're actually recording on March 28th, 2025, which is why we're talking end of Q1
Yep.
2025.
Yeah, good reference. So that's what I took. That's what I did this week. I stopped publishing content on everything. I didn't post anything at all, with the exception of a couple of things that contractually I had to do, so to speak, including this show, which will get edited tonight and published tonight. Besides that,
Look, there's a contractual obligation for this one. That's cool.
I mean, I don't want to break a contract with Luke Felbrook. I could be in big trouble. Big trouble.
Signed in blood.
Signed in blood. So besides those, I didn't do anything. I put my head down and planned what next quarter looks like. But I also took a little bit of time to reflect back on this last quarter. And some very interesting. Yeah, and I think for I like putting everything in the lens of not just marketing for this show, but two guys who are also solopreneurs.
In an attempt of, yes.
Okay. Yeah. So take the fact that we have full-time jobs as marketers out of the picture for a minute and look at it through the lens of we're two solopreneurs who are trying to get businesses up and running, and make them sustainable and all this other kind of stuff.
Yep.
I think that this is something that not a lot of people do, which is to take time out and look at your business from 50,000 feet. Okay. Because if you're really into it, like the way I look at it for me, like I grind every night, couple hours every night. And then on the weekends, I go hard. I go like 5 hours a night. Like I'll start working at like 9 o'clock tonight and I'll go till 2 a.m.
Yeah, that is your process.
And I'm writing blog posts and I'm creating videos and I'm doing all this kind of stuff, or I'm making a landing page, or I'm working on a newsletter, or whatever. Like I'm grinding, right? But I think it's important that every 13 weeks, you take a time out and you stop all work and you think about how are things going. So this isn't a concept that I created by any means. Actually, I got it from a book called The 12-Week Year. There's a book called The 12-Week Year. And the author, well, his name is slipping me, he writes about how setting yearly goals is dumb because
I'm pretty sure.
I don't think she said dumb, but I'm kind of making that word. He basically just says we it's too hard to see when you're in January. It's too hard to see to December. I agree with that, right? And sometimes we are either overly optimistic, or sometimes you underestimate what you get done in a year. So his argument is take 12 months and condense 12 months to 12 weeks. So basically treat a quarter like it's a year.
Yep.
And don't look beyond that. And of course, other books kind of teach us this lesson too, like EOS, Entrepreneur Operating System, Traction, talks about how focused quarter by quarter, right? But even Traction says look at a yearly goal and look at a 3-year goal.
Yep.
This guy, Brian Moran, that's his name, Brian Moran, was arguing the next 12 weeks is your year and go hard for 12 weeks. And then he says, after 12 weeks, take 1 week and don't do anything. Just reflect. Reflect on everything you did. So grind hard for 12 weeks. Go hard, go hard, go hard, go hard. And then take that week, reflect on what you got done, and then plan your next year. Year meaning the next 12 weeks, right? Okay. So I read this book a number of years ago. It's a great book. Highly recommend it. And I've kind of followed that philosophy for a while now. So I'm right now, as we speak, I'm at the end of this 13th week. So I grinded hard for 12 weeks. I did.
You did do a lot.
I did. I published, was it 16 blog posts total, 16 blog posts, and I produced and edited 45 videos. Mixture of long form and short form, but 45 total videos. I launched 3 new YouTube channels. And I was very active on Reddit. This, like, from a social perspective, like very active on Reddit. So I grinded hard for 12 weeks. So when I started week 13, I had a lot to look back at. And if you're curious, like kind of what you think about, here's it. Okay, thank you. Because I'm talking a lot. So please interrupt me and ask questions or interject. So you know what's really crazy is when I started this quarter in January, YouTube was nowhere on the radar.
Yep.
I went back and I looked at my notes. It wasn't even mentioned in my plans. I had no plans at all to do anything with video this quarter. And then we got to January 15th or somewhere around there, and I watched one freaking video on YouTube about some guy saying, "Oh, you should really start a channel," and blah, 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 and all this kind of stuff. And I took that and said, "Oh, yeah, I'm going to do video." And 45 videos later, which really I did in a matter of just like 45 videos in basically 10 weeks, added that into what I was trying to get done. So one of the things I reflected on this week was, okay, that wasn't in the plans. I did it. What was the opportunity cost of doing that? What did
what did you lose out on in your original plan?
So, well, quite a bit. So I was supposed to blog more than I did. So I didn't post as much on my website as I planned. I had planned on doing this content series this year. And so I was going to do 3 parts of that content series. I did 2, but I didn't do the third.
Okay.
So I fell a little short on that goal. I was supposed to expand my email newsletter to sending out 3 emails per month for 3 months or in 12 weeks. I did, I think, 3 total. So I didn't even come close. I was going to do more on social media. I was actually going to start promoting my stuff more on social. I didn't post anything. And actually, going back to a previous point, we were talking about our YouTube channel and stuff and like how many subscribers we got and stuff. We haven't even really promoted it. We posted it once on LinkedIn. I haven't posted it anywhere else. So to be fair, we haven't really marketed our own content, right? Okay, so and then the big thing that I was going to spend some time on in Q1 was there was a bunch of automations I wanted to build for the things I do, the things I create. Like, for example, when I post something on my blog, I wanted to set up an automation that would automatically publish it to content platforms, put it in Reddit, do all this kind of stuff. I didn't build any automations at all. So at the expense of all that stuff, what I did instead was I produced all these videos, which I had to look back and say to myself, was that worth it? Was that worth it? And one of the promises I made to myself in January when I started YouTube and I said I was going to do X number of videos per week and all this kind of stuff, I said, hey, at the end of the quarter, look at the results and determine what, are you going to keep going? Was it worth it?
Mm-hmm.
One of the commitments I did make was I was going to get to 100 videos before I make that determination. So technically, probably in one more quarter, I think I'll reach that. So maybe it's not fair to judge that yet until the end of this next quarter. But
weren't you going to do 100 videos over the course of 12 months?
I was, but at the rate I'm going, I think I'll actually have 100 by the end of next quarter.
Okay.
The reason why is because after I reflected on all this stuff, I started laying out my content plan for the rest of for the next quarter.
Okay, so bear with my question.
Yeah. Yep.
100 videos performing for 6 months is going to give you different metrics than 100 videos performing for 12 months, just because of the duration of time.
Yeah, I'm not so much worried about the performance of the videos. It's the action of making the videos and finding how they fit into my mix.
Oh, so it's more about the production.
Yep. It's more about, do I feel good about the direction I'm going making videos?
Got it. It's not necessarily the return of the metrics.
Yeah, no, because I understand that's going to be a longer game.
Okay.
So
thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, no, thanks for the question, because that's a legit question. So I was kind of looking back and saying, okay, I made this pivot kind of early in the quarter, and was that a good thing? And I determined it was. I think me and you have talked about video quite a bit over the years.
Mm-hmm.
How we need to be in video. And
not a question anymore.
Yeah, and I mean, you especially need to be in video.
Everybody needs to be doing video, dude.
Yeah. So I think it just really came down to, for some reason, I was inspired in a brief moment in time, and I dropped everything and I started doing it. And I think that was just the right thing to do at that time. So no regrets at all.
I think you had a real initiative that you wanted to do it, but you got the inspiration from the guy that said, just produce content. It doesn't matter. Just try it.
Yep.
So you said F it, and you did.
Yep.
Because you wanted to see how it would work.
Right. Yep.
And I think that's okay. There is an opportunity cost for anything you do. Right?
Totally. Yep. Absolutely.
I think it's cool that you took the initiative to look at that, given what you had initially laid out for the quarter. But at the same time, pivoting has to happen. And if you get, if it's something you need to do regardless, and you get inspired to do it, take advantage of that bolt of energy and go. Because it doesn't happen often.
Well, that, and to be honest, I mean, me and you are in a position right now where these ventures that we're building are not our paychecks.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So the other thing is, I can risk taking a quarter off of something else to work on something new. Because, but now that's going to lead to the second point that I'm going to make here in a second. Because the one thing that I did not do a lot of this last quarter because of video was work on my blog.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll get to that in a second. So I looked back at this last quarter, and I haven't pulled the metrics yet for the quarter, because technically the quarter doesn't end until tomorrow, Saturday, the 29th. That'll be the end of the 13th week. That's when I'll compile all the numbers and, all that kind of stuff. But so then I started to think about what I want to work on for next quarter. Mm-hmm. And so I actually started building out like a legit content plan in general. And the plan stretches across my website, my YouTube channel, marketing operations, but then also professional development, the things I want to learn, the things I want to
Mhm.
do. And I'm actually setting up a new approach to learning this quarter. Last quarter, I did the math. I read eight books last quarter. I think this quarter
Nice.
I read eight. Um, I learned something from every single one of them. One was a fiction book. The other seven were business books. Loved them all. Loved them. Reread Blue Ocean Strategy. Um, Loved every single one of the books. Didn't do anything with the knowledge. Didn't put it into play. Didn't take any active notes. Just read the books. I want to change that. So I'm actually building a learning goal in this quarter. That's going to take a little bit different approach on that. I know the tools really interest me that I used. I documented all these goals in Microsoft OneNote. They're tied to an Excel sheet that has all the metrics that I'm going to track, the performance, all this stuff. So, for those of you who might watch this down the road who are interested in the tools to do this kind of planning and stuff, I'm actually going to make a video on that.
Yeah,
And
you
post, yeah, I'm going to post it on my channel so people can watch it. Okay, so I want to talk about blogging.
are. Okay.
Okay.
Let's talk about blogging.
Okay. So looking back at this quarter, one of my goals in January was to produce a, I'm going to say a small amount, but the number might sound big. But I want to do two new blog posts every week for the quarter. So that would mean 24 new blog posts this quarter.
12 weeks.
12 weeks, two each week
Two each week. Yep.
for 24. Okay. Not including any that are sponsored content. So I have
How many did you doing for Q1?
for sponsored content 12.
So 12 on top of that?
Yep. But those 12, I didn't know what that number was going to be. That number
Yep.
could have
I'm
three.
just saying for planning purposes, time allocation.
Right. Yep. So when I walked in January, I assumed no sponsored content at all. I assumed just, because that's really kind of gravy. That just comes when it comes and I get paid for it. It's all good. But what I can control, I planned on doing 24 new pieces of content.
Okay.
Okay. And what did I do? I did like 4 total for the quarter. Now, the reason why I wanted to do 24 is because of the horrible performance that our 2 blogs have had in the last 12 months. So my goal going into January was, okay, I can curse out Google all I want, but I kind of was thinking about it in January, kind of like the stock market.
Mm-hmm.
When the stock market is good, things feel great.
Mm-hmm.
That was me and you 1 year ago.
Right.
Our blogs, and maybe you have the numbers of yours kind of just off the top of your head what you were averaging, but I was averaging between 800 and 900 sessions per day. I was getting real close to like 1,000 sessions per day, and I was making around $300 a month in AdSense revenue. Okay. To now, I'm half that if I'm lucky per day. Usually I'm somewhere between 300 to 380 per
Yep.
day. And my AdSense revenue now is down to last month I made $60. So going from almost 1,000 sessions a day to now about 350 and $300 in revenue down to 60.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I said. Okay, look, I can curse out Google all I want, but if this is like the stock market, it's eventually going to come back.
Yeah.
And when it does come back, I want to be ready. I want to have invested, if you will, content into my site so that when Google finally does start to care about the little guy again, I'll have stuff there for it to see and for it to put back in the rankings, and traffic will come back.
So my experience is, how many blog posts do you have now of your own, non-sponsored? Do you know that off the top of your head?
I'm at like
200, 250?
225, something like that.
Okay. I'm sitting at 10% of that on my blog. I have about 20 odd blog posts, so minimal. And they were produced for the most part year and a half, 2 years ago. So they're old, and I have not optimized them. I was seeing 200 to 300 sessions a day during that same time frame that you were doing well. I'm down to less than 100 sessions per day right now. Easy. Like, I'm lucky if I'm getting 75 sessions per day.
Yep.
I've lost a tremendous amount of traffic. Now, I have been incredibly inactive on my website. I have not produced any new blog content. I have not optimized anything for numerous reasons. That said, I'm hoping, like the stock market, that we will see another bull versus this bear business that's been going on with Google and our site metrics. I'm fearful that it's not going to see the glory days that we had back then. And the only way that we're going to get more metrics is through content production. So we have more content that is driving incremental traffic versus existing traffic driving extreme incremental traffic.
Mm-hmm.
So new content, I think, is going to be the only way that you're going to get more traffic, and you're going to optimize to a certain level for existing content, and that's it. Just because of how things are being produced right now in vast quantities and regurgitated across the internet. So, I don't know. So let's hear about your strategy for Q2 then. What are you thinking? So you've got 24 blog posts you need to produce. So have you ironed it out a little bit?
Yes. And I also have an opportunity to kind of kill two birds with one stone here. So the plan moving into Q2 is to leverage more of the video content on my blog.
I think it's a good plan. Everybody says that that is a good way to get Google to love you a little more.
Yep. So, and I haven't done that at all in Q1. I think I embedded maybe one video into one of my posts, and it was an existing post that, whatever. So I haven't really done that yet. So I know that's kind of a no-brainer strategy. Like, why wouldn't you do that?
Dumb marketing thing.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, it only takes us 20 years to figure something out. Stupid. So I'm going to, since I'm making all this video anyways, I might as well find ways to, make blog content out of it. And since there are some tools that you've introduced me to, like Gumloop and things like that, there's some ways I can automate this and make it a little bit easier. And I'm not suggesting just taking the transcripts from a video and using that as a blog post. I don't want to do that actually, but I would like to find ways that maybe I could take a transcript of a video that I create and maybe throw it into a AI tool and maybe have it give me the outline of a good blog post, or maybe have it help me write some of the content. And so I think I can automate some of that stuff to make it a little bit easier. But I think that's a quick win right there. I'm going to make that video anyways. So why not add them to the blog?
Yep.
The other strategy is I'm going to also try writing about other types of content. So up to this point, I've primarily focused very heavily on things like business operating systems, business strategy, frameworks, tools like, SciPoc diagrams and fishbone diagrams and kind of explaining how those work and how you use them in strategic planning and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Still going to kind of take that approach, but I'm going to start to kind of turn the ship a little bit to aim more around how to use analytics and metrics in that decision making process. So, how can you use metrics, analytics, KPIs, tools to help you with those type of activities?
Are you
So,
going to use your data to help pull strategy from data?
yes. Yep.
So
Yep.
these are going to be your experiences that you're going to write about.
Yep. And then how another business could use the concept and use their own data to
Good.
drive. Yeah.
I like that.
Um,
It's a good idea.
yep. And
I know it's weird because, that's what businesses should do, right?
I mean, yes. And as much as everybody talks about being so data driven, I've just found that those tend to be fluff words and nobody's actually doing it. But like, I'll give you an example. If you go into YouTube Studio and there's a report you can look at, a content report, and there's a button up in the top right hand corner that says, export, or it says advanced. And
Mm.
you click on it, and it gives you this advanced report that you can select a date range from. And then there's an export button.
Mm-hmm.
So a few weeks ago, when I was really hot and heavy with this YouTube stuff, I went in there and I pulled a report of all my YouTube analytics, everything. So it has the video, it has the title of the video, it has views, average duration, number of subscribers from that video, but all these metrics, right? And I threw it into Claude. And I just said, analyze this spreadsheet of data. Just analyze it and tell me, what you learn. And I asked it to categorize the videos, but I didn't have a category column in there.
Mm-hmm.
It was basically just looking at the subject, the title of the video was determining a category, right, for it.
Mm-hmm.
It did a pretty good job. But if I can make that data set even just a little bit more clean and because even the export didn't show if it was a long form versus a short.
Mm.
It showed the length of the video, but Claude didn't know that it was actually a short. Just thought, oh, this is just a video that's 2 minutes long, right? So if I added more detail and context into that file, Claude probably would have done an even better job.
Sure.
But it came back and it gave me a quick analysis of like, hey, this type of content tends to perform best, and here's 5 suggestions on videos that you could create related to that one that might perform well, right? That was a very simple application of what is possible, right? I basically just asked it, analyze it, and give me some suggestions on the videos I can make. But with the right prompting and the right data in there, I bet I could do some pretty crazy stuff with AI to give me strategic direction.
So before you move on,
Yeah.
I believe that this is a legitimate content strategy for bloggers and video producers
Mm-hmm.
because, and I think it's going to get easier. One, the tool Claude is legit at doing analysis work.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not using it, use it. Try it.
Mm-hmm.
Take that analysis, plug it into ChatGPT's current version, and write a blog post, at least a framework at a minimum,
Yep.
based on keywords that you're trying to optimize for.
Mm-hmm.
And now you can even produce semi-legitimate images with that blog post in ChatGPT as well.
Yep.
So given AI, as long as you have the data, given AI's capabilities and the need for EAT, Google requirements, which is your expertise, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the type of content that everybody wants. This is the type of stuff that people want to read. They don't want regurgitated stuff. They don't want generic overviews that everybody's reproducing. They want your specific learnings, and then they want you to provide that perspective based on what you can offer. So I think what you're trying to do and how you're doing it is what small businesses and anybody else who's in the arena of producing content should really be looking to try to put into their process.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, it's making myself the case study.
Yes,
That's
for
what I
the
look at.
advantage of somebody else to learn so you can drive metrics for your business.
Exactly. Yep.
Yes.
So that's kind of the. There's also a little bit of also. So my background, my first background, and where my blood still runs very deep and thick is in technology, and so this is a natural move towards building the technology stack to do this kind of analysis.
Yeah.
And um, there's a couple of concepts I wrote down in my planning documents of like actual code I've written in the past that I'm going to dust off that I've used in like Excel, for example, to do some analysis on data and stuff that I think would be worth sharing. And just throwing out there on like, here's something you could build that would help you analyze this type of data, and here's how I used it. So just because I'm hungry for doing some technical content and
Yeah.
tech based content, so I'm going to kind of interweave some of that stuff in with it as well. And again, my commitment to myself in January was that I was going to make this content, and that was my focus was going to be exactly what you were talking about, my personal experience with things.
Yep.
And so this is just amplifying that to the next level and putting some focus on it in Q2. I have not set my scorecard up yet, so I don't know what the number is going to be. I don't know if it's going to be 2 a week. It might be 1 a week. And the only reason is because these posts are going to take a little bit longer to create because I'm going to be doing data analysis, doing, that kind of like building kind of how I would do this. And that means it's going to take a little bit longer, but I don't care. This isn't necessarily about getting X number of posts published. It's about getting X number of quality posts published.
Right.
And then the second part of the strategy, or third or fourth, I don't know what part I'm on right now, is getting a better promotion engine built around getting this content to other places other than just Google search. It is time to get back into the email newsletter, make it a little bit more value driven for readers. I continue to acquire email subscribers every week.
That's cool.
So I'm getting subscribers, but as we've talked about in the past, you got to do something with them.
Right.
So I'm hoping that maybe some fresh content will help facilitate that. So if you put that on top of, so I had 12 pieces of sponsored content. I actually did okay from a financial standpoint this quarter, actually, despite my AdSense being down. My sponsored content agreements made up for it.
That's cool.
Yeah, so I have no complaints there, and I'm hoping that continues. And if that continues and I can get just a little bit more traffic to my site, maybe that'll bring me AdSense revenue back up, and maybe I'll be in a decent spot. So, but it's still hard to look at these Q1 numbers in terms of like website traffic because I was down. I just looked at it, 52% down. So it's exactly with where I was talking about half
year
traffic.
over year.
Yeah, it's literally half the traffic, like literally 52%.
Yeah.
So
it's even worse.
just got nailed. And
yep.
the biggest losses of that. So organic search was down 54%. My direct traffic was down 34%. Referral traffic down 51%.
Yeah, dude, it's real.
Organic social was down 6%. But my organic video is up 1,400%
There you go.
because I'm getting
There's
traffic from
a
YouTube.
cost.
Yeah, I'm getting traffic from YouTube. So
That's
hopefully
brilliant.
that'll continue to grow too. But let's see here. I'm just looking at one other thing real quick because one thing I did notice is that it seems like, let me see real quick. No, even that was down. My
I'm down.
engaged sessions were a little bit. I thought my engaged sessions were a little bit better, and they are a little bit better. But I mean, it's still down.
So they are a little better though.
Yeah, they are. I've seen increases in engaged sessions, engagement rate, time on site has gone up a little bit. So maybe I'm getting better quality traffic. But my search impressions are down 46%. My clicks are down 60%. I mean, yeah, it's been a hard year.
Yes, it has. My traffic, and by the way, I get international traffic, but I really try to get US traffic because that's the way my e-com is set up on my site.
Yeah.
My traffic year over year is down 74%.
Wow.
I went from 22,400 sessions in Q1 last year to 8,100. Right? And that is equivalent to the US drop. US was literally 74%. Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy. And the worst part about it is because if you rewind to last February, so February 2024,
Mm-hmm.
me and you were riding so high.
I know.
So
and then the rug was pulled out from under us in March.
I think I had like 16 straight months of growth.
Yeah, we were doing really well. It was a lot of fun. We were like, dude, if this keeps going, we're gonna be seeing 500,000 sessions on our site this year.
Yeah.
That's what we were talking about.
And you know what's interesting? I mean, you talked about this at the end of last year. Despite the horrible March and April we had last year and how everything after that fell, I still last year beat my traffic from the year before. So 2024 was still bigger than 2023, but that just shows you
the growth
that I had in the early part of 2024, that even the disastrous 7 months that followed or 8 months that followed after, I still did well. Well, that won't be the case this year.
Right.
This year I will actually, it's also interesting as I was looking at some of the charts and graphs that I have built. I have a dashboard I built and everything, and it shows Google clicks, search clicks. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the graph shows April is when last year is when it started to tank. April was the worst month ever because I didn't really get hit until the first week of April. I remember telling you last year in March, like, okay, I think I might have made it out of this update okay because I'm still.
I remember because I was getting decimated and I was like, I don't know how you're holding on, but keep going.
I held on. I was in Washington, D.C. for work the middle of March, and I was doing okay. And that was kind of when the core update had started really kind of hitting and people were talking.
Yep.
And then the next week after I got back from that work trip, I went on spring break and I was still doing okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then that last week of March, the very last week of March is when I started to notice a little bit of a tick down. And then April, it just crashed. It was like a fucking airplane.
It was like the longest running update I think Google's ever done. I swear. It was like 2 months long.
Yeah. And then it just tanked. And then I thought I started to see an uptick in September because I think I got a little bit of a boost from that August update. That the kind of that correction update they did a little bit. Got a little bit of a bump from that. But then this holiday season was the worst I'd ever had. And then January, actually, this January 2025, I saw an uptick a little bit. And I thought, okay, maybe I'm starting to recover a little bit. Then February was a disaster. March will be better than February, but only because of number of days in the month.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Apparently,
Google's recent update is supposed to be helping little guys like us, though. That's what you're telling me. I've seen over the last few days, I have seen incremental upticks in rank positionings for my site.
Good.
But outside of that, initially it dropped. So the update, I think, was on the 13th, roughly is when it started.
13th, okay.
And that first week,
nothing.
Wasn't treating me well. But now I'm seeing an uptick, so we'll see.
Yeah, it may just be one of those cases where, it's going to take some time to finish rolling out, and you won't see the benefits of it until later.
But I want to see if it's actually ended. I can check quick.
I mean, so one thing I have seen is my site has shown up in the AI overview as a
that's cool.
Yep. So I did a search on one of the topics that I have traditionally ranked very high for.
Okay.
And I showed up in the AI interview.
Yeah.
AI overview. I showed up and there was a link to my site at the bottom. I was referenced as being a source of the AI overview.
Nice.
So that's good. So I think if you have traditionally ranked high for a keyword, I think it'll show up in that AI overview. But the AI overview that I could see they lifted content directly from my site would have given the searcher exactly what they needed.
Yeah, that's what I've seen as well.
Yeah, and they would have a reason to come to my site unless they were like, wow, this is really insightful. I'd like to see what else this guy has.
Yeah, from what I've been able to put together in using the AI tools, they are literally using the answers from the content they're featuring and just kind of rewording it.
Yep. And I'm hoping that at some point we'll get to see some metrics on stuff like that, like how many times your site was referenced in an AI overview. It'd also be nice to be able to see how many clicks came from an AI overview or placement.
I have a feeling they're going to keep us guessing for a while.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be anytime soon because they know when they do that, people will start to try to game it.
Right. The update, the Google update, ended yesterday. Just so you know.
Oh, okay. All right.
So let's see some gold.
Yeah, I think it's I think it's just really going to come down to make the content you want to make it personalized, and just keep putting deposits in the bank. And the your audience will find you.
I'm going to add to that a little bit. One, AI is only going to get better. So from a content production standpoint, AI is going to be able to do a lot of this shit better and better and better as time goes on. So personally, I feel like the only story that an individual is going to be able to tell is their own experience. Because all the rest will be driven by AI automations. So if you're not using a personal perspective now in your content, you need to start today.
Yep.
And the other thing that I would add to that is, as soon as you start sharing a little bit about yourself, you need to have the willingness to have a conversation about that content with the people who are interested in that content. Meaning you need to find them People are already liking it, joining forums, talking in communities, Reddit posts, similar content. You have to find them. And if they're commenting on something that is something that you could add to the conversation, you need to get involved in those conversations.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
This is not foreign to people who are in marketing. We've been talking about this for years. It's the practice of doing it consistently that is the challenge for most people, including professional marketers, because it is a discipline that you have to build into your work and process that can be challenging to do at times because there isn't always time to build relationships when you're trying to deliver on projects or lead a team or whatever it is that your role represents. So being a content creator has its challenges, and I would argue personally, sharing your personal experiences, being vulnerable enough to talk about your personal experiences, and finding the right people to have those conversations is one of the most rewarding, but also one of the most challenging things that you could do. And I would argue that it would be on all content platforms. So it would start with your original content being either YouTube and your blog, and then disseminating with email, social, and all of the deliverable channels to get the word out. And it's going to be constant engagement. That's the way you're going to make a difference. It is not going to be automating posts on LinkedIn. It is not going to be liking somebody else's YouTube video. It is going to be conversations back and forth in most instances on your personal experiences and perspective. So that's why it's challenging for me. This is basically all I've been spending my time on over the last 3 to 6 months is really just kind of honing in on how I want to do this for myself, because I've been challenged in wanting to do it first and foremost. I really don't want to be that much of an open book. That's one of my biggest hangups. And technically, how am I going to do this across many, many channels where I know the people that are going to be an active audience that I can engage with, managing, 10 channels versus 2 as a one-man army trying to do website, blog, video, email, social, and everything else.
Yep.
So I have been really trying to hone in my own strategy on how I'm going to do that. And I think I'm still going to have to cherry pick and pick a few channels. Priorities right now would probably be blog, getting into video, because I'm going to try to tell a personal story. That's where I'm trying to go.
Yep.
This year. And that's going to be hopefully coming soon. It's been a slow progress, but blog, video, little social, probably more email. And I'm really trying to build automations. That's what's going to help me to manage all this. That's why Gumdrop was such a big excitement for me a couple episodes ago. So that's where I'm trying to go with this.
Yeah, no, makes sense.
I mean, it makes sense. Doing it's the tough part, right? So it all, in my head, it all is like, oh yeah, just do that.
Yep.
In the very back of my head, I'm just like, what are you going to do all that?
Yep.
So,
well, to one of the points you made about getting out on social and being part of communities, or talking about your subject and contributing, I had 170 sessions from Reddit last quarter.
Yeah, that's legit channel these days. Considering Google put them in the top 10 ranks on every subject out there, Reddit is a legit platform to have good conversations now.
Yep. So that's one of
my favorites. They always have been, but I mean, their recognition and reward that you receive by having engagements on that channel has far exceeded where they were before.
Totally. Yep. Okay. All right.
Cool.
So
that's cool to hear that Reddit metric, actually.
Yeah. No. And I've got referral traffic saying it's coming from ChatGPT and Gemini and Perplexity.
I've had a few of those.
Yeah, I had 288 come from ChatGPT.com
Over
for
what time
referrals
period?
over last quarter.
Wow, that's really good.
Bro, I'm getting, if I'm reading this right, I'm getting legit traffic from AI services.
Yeah, I mean, mine are few and far between, but yeah, you're getting legit numbers.
Am I reading this wrong? Look at this. This is last quarter time frame. 288 from ChatGPT, 174 from Gemini, 120 from Perplexity.
Yeah, no, that's right.
I mean, I mean,
Or some medium, yeah,
that's a good sign.
yeah, yeah.
I'll
You
I'll
want that?
I'll take that.
Heck yeah, yeah.
Okay,
You
all
want
right.
that? Does that
Well,
make
if
you
I
feel good?
that makes me feel a bit better. Better. Um,
Yeah, the only metric that makes me feel better on my analytics dashboard is my questionnaires were only down 50%, and my add to cart were only down 23%. So
all right. So those outperformed your
they were
site's performance.
far better than my 74% drop in my content.
And actually, those are the things that matter to you ultimately in the long run.
Yes.
So,
Which is why I thought it might be worthwhile mentioning that.
no, I'm really glad you brought that up because that is definitely a bright spot.
Yeah. I mean, it's not as down as much, still down, but at least it wasn't
Yeah.
lost as heavy.
Yep.
So how should we wrap this one up?
Okay, so we're on. Yeah, well, we're on to Q2. So here's to goals and achieving them, right? So
Here's the goals of achieving them.
something,
Drinking if you
something,
got it.
right? Something we've neglected to do at the end of all these, besides telling people to like the video, comment on the video, subscribe to our channel, which they should all do. We haven't really been telling
All
people,
the dumb marketing things that we're
yeah,
supposed to do.
all the dumb YouTube stuff you have to do. We haven't really been telling people where we want them to go. I would love to say go to bobstanke.com
Well, yeah.
and
I
check
would.
out my
Yeah.
website.
Yeah. I think you
Um,
should say that.
and we also want people to go check out True Identity, right?
Well, yeah. I thought you were going to say something about bobstakey.com, but yes. Before you go to bobstakey.com,
Mm-hmm.
go to trueidentity.com and just check out what Luke is trying to work on a little more these days.
I support that. I support that 100%. I think what they should do, though, is fill out the questionnaire.
Yeah, that is a given. Fill out that questionnaire. Let us tell you how your character traits rate and what's your most dominant positive character traits.
There will be people who watch this video and they will get this far in it and they will take that action.
I hope so, because it would be good for me and it would be good for them.
So support the small guys and check out our websites.
There you go.
Good. All right. Well, that's it.
Great way to close that up, Chief. Nice work.
Yep. Another one in
We
the
got to
books.
remember to do that. We got to get our selfish plugs in there. We have to.
Well, yeah, we're taking the time to make this. So,
Yeah, if we're going to be dumb marketers, then we have to do the dumb marketing things.
unfortunately, yes.
That is true.
All right. Well, adios, my friend.
Bye.
Bye.